The independence movement in India lasted an astounding 190 years. First, revolutionaries had to free themselves from the powerful East India Company, then take on the British Empire. After making massive contributions to the British victories in both world wars, the Indian people were growing increasingly frustrated at their second-class status. By 1920, a lawyer named Mahatma Gandhi had emerged as one of the most influential leaders in the history of the world. He energized and inspired the Indian people with his non-violent, non-cooperation movement, which included a spectacular 3.5-week protest march to the sea and multiple imprisonments for acts of civil disobedience. Decades passed, but after the Labour Party was victorious in the 1945 British parliamentary elections, a new stance toward India was adopted, allowing for India to negotiate its independence in the summer of 1947. This was a bittersweet moment for Gandhi, for self-government came at a high price. Instead of remaining unified, British India was partitioned into two nations, India and Pakistan. The 1949 revolution was the culmination of the 28-year rise of the Chinese Communist Party. During World War II, the Communists formed an alliance with their rivals, the Chinese Nationalist Party, in order to defeat Japan. When the Japanese surrendered to end the war, the Communists and Nationalists rushed to take over territory and assets, and before long, they were fighting one another. Since the Nationalists controlled the government, they had superior numbers and commanded the Air Force, but the Communists, led by their chairman Mao Zedong, were better organized. Before long, the Communists began piling up military victories, bringing more and more cities under their control. By August 1948, inflation had reached extreme levels, and soon the cities of Suzhou, Tianjin, Beijing, and the then capital Nanjing all fell into communist hands. Defeated, the nationalists took the Air Force, Navy, and most of the government's gold reserves and re-established itself on the island of Taiwan. In control of the mainland, Mao declared Beijing the capital of the newly established People's Republic of China, which he ruled for 27 years as an autocrat until his death in 1976. There were two Vietnams in 1946, a communist North and a non-communist South. After fighting an 8-year war of independence with the French, the ceasefire terms awarded freedom for the North, the Communist Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Egypt's monarchy was overthrown in 1952 in favor of a republic led by the charismatic army officer Gamal Abdel Nasser. The revolution was committed to the establishment of a single Arab state, which achieved some success by briefly merging with Syria into one country, but that joint state and that idea ultimately failed. Fidel Castro and his brother Raúl led an armed revolt against the dictatorship of President Fulgencio Batista, who they eventually ousted in 1959. The Castros replaced Batista's pro-American government with a communist regime that's still in power today. After the movement for Algerian independence began during the First World War, France promised to eventually grant the North African nation its independence. The Algerians were patient and tried to win their freedom through peaceful means. However, when they protested, they were met with violence and endured massacres that killed as many as 40,000 people. In October 1954, an uprising spread quickly throughout the country. The French reaction was forceful and extreme. It poured more than 2 million troops into the 8-year war, including a one-time installation of 500,000 soldiers in the capital. But the effective use of guerrilla warfare, outbreaks of terrorism, and sustained rebel control of mountainous areas wore the French down. Charles de Gaulle, the president of France, eventually allowed Algerians to vote on their independence. The referendum passed with over 99.7% support. The Algerian Revolution was an important decolonization war and led to the loss of French prestige abroad. The Derg is the short name for the military council that took power in Ethiopia after the fall of Emperor Haile Selassie. To impose its will, the communist Derg executed and imprisoned tens of thousands of opponents without trial.